Jonathan Kidd, this is Gary Davison. This is Chelsea Blue. We're going to be discussing the game against Brentford at the weekend, where we threw away the winning situation we found ourselves in, and we'll be previewing the Bayern game. So let's dive straight in. So, Gary, what was the problem with Saturday, do you reckon, from the very beginning?
First problem is, I think, looking at the team sheet and thinking to ourselves, well, I can understand that there had to be some changes. That was clearly obvious after
Some
South America.
management, some management.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a problem with some of it. I mean, I thought Hatter was an obvious choice to come in to start with Cucurella because he had played 290 minutes. And I don't think that would have been pushing it for Cucurella to start on Saturday and then have the game on Wednesday. So I can understand that. Buonanotte was probably the obvious choice given that Palmer wasn't able to start.
He scored 4 goals in the under-21 game. That was why he decided to give him a go.
And also, he's a good player. I mean,
He's a very decent player. And I thought he did
absolutely.
okay. The problem was doing okay wasn't really sufficient in the
No.
situation.
I mean, and obviously,
We ended up mirroring the game from last year,
yes,
unfortunately.
exactly. And I think the other problem is when you look at Fofana starting on the right fullback didn't work at all, and I couldn't see why he'd go with that route. He had other people to play at right back, and Fofana is a good centre back, but he's not a good right back. That's
And
clear.
also, to be fair to him, he's hardly played. He hasn't had
No,
minutes. And in
exactly.
fact, in the press conference, Maresca said, "I'll give him some minutes." I didn't think he'd start him.
Well, I heard
He
him
gave him.
say, which might have been a subtle change from his answer, that he intended to give maybe him 45 minutes only.
Well, indeed, he
Well,
gave him 45, but I thought the wrong end. I thought he'd
yes,
give him
yes.
the
Yeah.
45 starting of the second half, not
Yeah,
from
he
the very
doesn't tend to.
beginning.
He tends to sort of like to start his teams being different rather than make them different in the second half.
Yeah.
And of course, the fullbacks were giving us nothing in terms of width, so
Um,
that was a problem. And I mean, having said that, their goal was a great ball. It was a great ball forward from Henderson.
yeah,
Caught us. I mean, I could say, look at the defending. Possibly Tosin could have got a bit closer, but it was a lot of space to run into for the
I
forward.
think
And
we
took it
didn't play
well.
badly in the first half. We had a great
No,
deal of possession. The dilemma was that once again we couldn't put the ball in the net. So it was very similar to the game from last year when we didn't have a centre forward. And
yeah.
unfortunately, you realise how awful that Delap's hamstring injury is. It's
Well,
created
that
an
that's a
absolute
huge
hole.
blow. It's a
And
huge
also
blow.
tactically, it's created a hole as well because
Yeah,
he was so good at taking the ball down from basically a long punt up the field, which is what so many of these teams appear to be doing nowadays. And the long pass, when you've been playing in the low block or you've been playing defensively, to the sprinting forward is an absolute necessity. And particularly with
absolutely.
somebody with the great physical presence and speed of Delap, it's such a shame that
And Delap
we've
is a
got to
perfect player to hold off the ball.
hold the
So
ball.
you bring a
Absolutely,
Pedro into the game, you bring
absolutely.
somebody else in who can just take it on. So we've lost a lot in that situation.
Then,
So
unfortunately, then when we had the substitutions, initially the three, and then the was similarly with George still attempting to play the centre forward
yeah,
position,
yeah,
but ultimately when he then brought on Palmer with on 53 minutes, I think it was, you actually saw what we would have been capable of in the first half.
yes,
Palmer
yeah.
was magnificent. What a magnificent goal he
Yeah, I
scored.
mean,
Oh,
he again he glided into space, which
oh,
is always the thing about him. But actually, the goal he took just so instinctively and caressed the ball into the net
oh,
rather than hit it.
wonderful.
Which is what he's great. The other thing that I would definitely say on the second half, which was very encouraging, was Garnacho. But I think Garnacho will give us a lot because what I liked about him when he runs with the ball, he actually runs with the ball as if he means business. And if it's like I'm going to run past you. I'm
Well,
going
well,
to, and I
he's,
like that.
he's a bit like Neto for me.
Yes,
We're not seeing a huge amount of dribbling ability, but he's just so quick that he beat the fullback. Both crosses he got, the one we got across for Caicedo's wonderful goal was just
yeah.
terrific, and then the one that Palmer almost scored from was absolutely similar
I
with the
think
one
that
that
one
he
he
flicked at
hit
the
it
end.
a bit blind, so he hit it without. I mean, he guessed where the goalkeeper, or he thought where the goalkeeper was
Well,
going to
just
be.
the earlier one. No, I didn't mean that one. I meant the
Yeah, you mean the
final
other
one.
one
The final one, one with
when he
Sky.
ballooned it over the
No, the
bar?
earlier one, when the one when he hit the goalkeeper was such a
Yeah,
shame because it was a great move,
I think he
a
probably
fantastic
would.
move.
I think if he'd have angled himself just slightly more, he would have gone right in the corner, which he was looking for.
Yeah,
I
or
think.
even if he'd hit it higher, he would have, because the goalkeeper Keller had anticipated it.
Yeah, he did. He did. And also,
Very
we
clever. It
shouldn't
was a very
forget.
good save, but it was such a shame after such a brilliant
Yes,
move.
no, it was. Also, I wouldn't forget Sanchez made one very, very
Oh,
big
brilliant
save.
save after we'd scored the goal.
Yeah,
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, which again is
From
what he's good at.
Schada's overhead kick. In
Yeah,
fact,
and
Schada and Thiago, the two Brentford players who've replaced Wissa and Bueno, who I have to say I thought were great players. And Bueno is a great player. I
they
think it's
were
a
absolutely.
fantastic purchase by United. I'll be intrigued to
They're
see.
playing in the wrong
He's not
position,
doing.
but that's
He's
another
playing in the
story.
wrong position at the moment, yeah. But their ability to break at speed for that kind of setup that was it Keith Andrew, their manager, has now, and
Yeah,
that the previous manager had.
Thomas
But
Frank.
yeah, they just replicated. So essentially, we saw the same
Yeah,
tactic that we saw against us the year before. This is why you could argue that Maresca was being a little bit naive or even arrogant, playing the five reserves,
I think the
even with
problem is
Gittins. And Gittins, I'm afraid, didn't
Gittins
impress.
at the
Didn't
moment doesn't
impress.
seem to
At the
be.
moment, he seems very off the pace, and I think Garnacho should start ahead of him.
I think I
But
agree, and
but
I
then
think Gittins needs a bit of time to adapt. It's interesting that the two players we bought outside the Premier League, Gittins and Hatter, are the two that are looking as if they need time. They're not ready yet,
yes, yes,
and
absolutely.
that's
And it was
naturally.
such a shame that having got back to in the winning position, the
Yeah,
goal we let in the first half came back to haunt us because they scored from
yes,
a throw in. Now, so many things have been said about the throw ins. In fact, that the Thiago pushed whoever I think who headed, I can't remember, pushed two players out of the way. That the player in the immediate vicinity was offside, but the goal scorer Carvalho wasn't offside. And with my referee's hat on, I would say it was a fair enough goal. Um,
yeah. I mean, I think the same. I mean, I don't think the foul. I mean, you'd probably look as from the referee's point of view. It wasn't interfering with the game, and it wasn't
Indeed, they weren't
directly involved with
interfering.
the ball.
But
I think
my complaint is that it's a sucker goal. Garnacho didn't go with the player at
no,
all
he
at the
didn't. He
back,
didn't. I
and
mean, he
and
was
it,
an
and, you, and it's
attacking
such
player playing the wrong place.
absolute, and it's so frustrating because they had done the plan, which they
Yeah,
got back into the game. They
yeah,
then had a goal to win it. They should have held out. They're supposed to be good enough to hold out.
yeah. And
And it was
we let it
very,
slip in the
very
last minute.
frustrating to lose the 2 points in the league. And you'd have
Yeah,
thought that considering
yeah.
we have the Brentford coach from last year, that he would have coached us in how to deal with long throws because that's what he was doing, or at least find somebody in the Chelsea team who can throw a long throw. It is
Well,
so
there's two issues there.
dangerous. I think the thing to do is you have to have a player on the far post
Yeah, yeah,
because
which we didn't.
the flick on, which we didn't have, the flick on is always going to be into that area.
Yeah,
If
we
somebody
were.
goes near post, they're going to flick it back. It's going to be in the far. If the goalkeeper
Yeah,
misses it, there should always be somebody
yeah, we
on
were
the
sucked into
post.
the ball.
Let's get on to Bayern.
Yeah, yes,
Do you think he will pick what we would call the first team for Bayern on Wednesday?
yes. I'm sure he'll pick the first team. I mean, if he doesn't, I would be very surprised because I'm not sure what the purpose of the first team is to have them if you don't use them in the
I
Champions
mean, my
League.
fear is, regardless, that the first team should be obviously Cucurella, Chalobah,
Yeah.
Tozin, James. I would play at right back because he's the
James,
best
I think,
player.
will start.
Sanchez, Fernandez, obviously,
Caicedo.
with Caicedo, and Palmer as the 10, and
Yeah.
then Neto on the right, and I would play Garnacho on the left with Pedro up front. But I fear that
Well, that would be my team.
that
That
would
would
be
be
my
my.
first team too. I fear that won't be the team.
He might decide his Garnacho is not ready to start 90 minutes and give Gittins another start. I
Good
think,
Kitchens is used to playing in the Bundesliga, so it
yeah,
might
yes.
start him off well.
But I think for me, that's the team. Again, but then you're looking at this whole thing of game management because we've got United on
Yeah,
Saturday.
yeah, indeed,
How does
indeed.
he? It's a tricky one. We said this
Very
before
tricky.
last time about how you work out the management of the players,
And
and the squad is looking a little less deep than we perhaps thought.
that's the case. Yeah, they've had a fabulous start, Bayern, in the
Well,
Bundesliga.
it's a
We've
question
never
again,
beaten them away, ever. We've never, ever beaten them
apart
away,
from the big day, which
apart
was
from the big day in
yes.
2012. What's your prediction?
I think we can get a 1-1.
2-0. All right. Well, he's been Gary Davison. I've been Jonathan Kidd. This has been Chelsea Blue. See you next time.